Do you want to stay more focused on the right goals in your life, or even just figure out what the right goals are for you? Do you want clarity? Do you want better work-life balance? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Success Through Failure.
Welcome to the Success Through Failure podcast, the show that reveals failure as your path to success. You'll listen to intriguing interviews with some of the most successful people on the planet and learn how their failures became a launchpad for success and how yours can too. Here's your host, former Division I All-American wrestler, former Division I head coach, speaker, and personal coach, Jim Harshaw.
Welcome to another episode of Success Through Failure. This is your host, Jim Harshaw. Today I'm bringing you something a little different, actually probably a lot different. This is a coaching call. A lot of people wonder, what the heck is it like to be coached, right? And I actually had a listener reach out to me and say, Jim, I don't even know what it's like to be coached. So, and it was interesting because two people actually said that to me in the same week. One of my clients, and then another guy who's just on my email list, a guy named Kurt. And Kurt said, Jim, I don't know what it's like to be coached by you. And maybe you can kind of share some of that in one of your episodes. So I put Kurt on the spot and I said, what if I actually record a coaching call? And this is just an introductory call. This is the free clarity call. This is not actually a call with one of my clients. This is a call with somebody who just signed up for a free coaching call. And so this is Kurt. And Kurt, I put Kurt on the spot. I said, what if I actually record it? And he was open to it. So it was pretty cool. Most people have never been coached, so they don't know what to expect. And hopefully this brings you a little bit of insight into what it is, what it feels like to be coached, or at least what it feels like to be coached by me. And to get that call for yourself, it's just go to jimharshawjr.com/apply. That's jimharshawjr.com/apply. And if you know somebody else who wants to go from good to great, maybe that's you, maybe that's somebody else, definitely please share this episode. I don't ask that enough, but I would love for you to share this episode. That's how podcasts grow. That's how my podcast has always grown, is just from people sharing. So if you could, grab the link to this, jimharshawjr.com/140, and you can share that link. Text somebody, email somebody, whatever. If you're on iTunes, you should probably, I think you click the three dots there and brings down a little share option. But anyway, share it wherever you best see fit, if you could, please. So now notice with Kurt, he's not in a terrible place, right? He's someone who wants to go from good to great. He's in a good place. So coaching is not for people who are like down and out, not necessarily. It can be. But most of my clients are in, a pretty good spot. Some of them are in a pretty amazing spot. I've got clients who one says he has an embarrassment of riches, and he's just trying to sort out how to best use those. And I've got another client who's struggling to find a job right now. So it ranges, it's the whole gamut, but it's definitely an opportunity to get clear on things. And notice that with Kurt, and with all my clients, really, I'm asking him questions that no one in his life are ever going to ask him, right? That's what you get out of a coaching call. Someone who's going to ask you questions and help you gain perspective on the challenges that you're facing. Someone who's fully investing their attention in you. And that's what I do. And I do that with Kurt here, as you'll hear, that I fully invest my attention in him. And my question for you is, do you have that person in your life? Someone who isn't just having a conversation with you, isn't chatting with you, but someone who helps you untangle the thoughts that are swirling around in your head. Now, Kurt's situation may not be the same as yours. He's married, no kids, and lives in New York City. And you may be married or you may not be married. You may have kids or you may not have kids. And you may live in a city, you may live in a rural area. It doesn't matter really. But that's just his situation. His fundamental challenges are likely the same as yours. He knows he's not fully maximizing his capabilities and he wants more out of life. He knows there's untapped potential and he knows that the clock is ticking and he doesn't want mediocrity. He doesn't want to underperform anymore. And I help him work through that. And keep in mind that this is just one coaching call. This is the discovery call. This is the clarity call. This is the foundation. Subsequent calls get much deeper and much more specific and much more detailed than you're going to hear in this initial free strategy call. And interestingly, I want you to notice this also. We talk about what's possible. Think about what's possible in your life. What is possible? Have you ever even explored that? You probably have, at least in the deep, dark recesses of your mind or your subconscious, but like, what really is possible for you. In the last episode, 139, I shared that lesser people have achieved what you want to achieve. And have you ever even shared with somebody out loud what you know is possible for you? Kurt talks about a few of these things in this call, and I ask you to consider, what are those things for you? Without further ado, I bring you a free coaching clarity call with Kurt, and I look forward to having one with you. Again, jimharshawjr.com/action. Here we go with Kurt.
What we'll do is take a close look at a lot of the stuff that you emailed me, some of your challenges and where you're at and where you want to go, what's working for you, what's not working for you, and then we'll spend some time getting really clear on what you really want. And if I can help you with that, I'll definitely show you how, and if not, I'll point you in the right direction. So I think either way, you'll just get a lot of value from this call, a lot of clarity, and clarity around things that are holding you back and what you want, and hopefully have a good time doing it. So.
Awesome. I'm ready. I would love some clarity.
That's what I do a lot. A lot of folks I talk to just the same thing. They just looking for clarity. So some of the things that you wrote in your email, it sounded like consistency. You feel resistance in your life in certain areas. Talk about what you would say is your biggest challenge right now in your life.
I would say that, overall, my life is pretty good. Work's good, family life is good, and everything. And I got, some dreams for the future and no big hang-ups that I think from the past that are really holding me back or anything. But it's, the present, I think, is kind of the challenge. I go to work, I do a really good job, I get home, spend time with my wife, and I think that's going really well. But my personal time and personal space and the ability to get the distance from things, to, I guess I would say, feel creative and feel I just want to get my own things done. That's a struggle because when I take that time for myself, I have a lot of anxiety about oh no, I'm not doing my job, or, I leave my wife to her own devices all day. And then I, if I take my own time, then I'm, kind of breaking the status quo, I guess, that I've, set up for the last, 10 or 12 years. So I think there's that struggle with two things that are working really well, and I don't want to jeopardize either of those. There are other things I'm sure they're working well too, but also I would like some of the energy that I put into other areas to become energy that I use for my own things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you feel selfish by taking time to yourself, is that right?
Yeah, I think sometimes I do, yeah. I honestly, sometimes I think, is it just my imagination, or is it real? And I think that some of it has to do with, I don't think it's my imagination that I would feel selfish, but I think I've set some expectations, work, you're always on. I work as an executive assistant, so I have hours in the office, but I've made it so that, I'm expected to kind of be on whenever I'm needed, which is kind of part of the job. I kind of successed myself into something sometimes that I'm oh, I really don't want to be that responsible, in other areas.
Yeah, yeah. So why is it important to you to have your own time in your own personal space? Why is that important?
Well, I think some of it, probably most of it, has to do with I feel like I am a better person, and when I have my own space, I need some quiet. We mentioned before we started recording, I live in New York City. There are a lot of people. We're always around people. I come from a background where I had a lot of open space around me, and where, like, a lot of my life being a runner, like out on trails by myself. And so I got used to having time to let my mind wander and I think be creative and make a plan. You know, like if I want to write something, like that would come together there. And I feel like I've kind of lost that.
Because life's gotten busy, hectic?
Yeah. Life's gotten busy. And even sometimes when I know I'm not busy, like I still feel busy. Like I need, I need some.
Yeah.
Either I need a way to unwind quickly, or I need, more time to like just kind of naturally let that rhythm flow the way that it works for me.
Yeah. So you say by having, if you had more personal space, and when you did, you feel like you were and you are a better person whenever you have that time to yourself, that space to yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, and when I said better, I don't know if that's quite accurate. I'm a more satisfied. I feel more satisfaction in life when I have more time to myself. So right. I don't think it's an issue of like, oh, I'm a bad person here and a good person here, or a so-so person and a better person. It's more, I think it's a satisfaction issue.
Yeah. So what's getting in the way? What's getting in the way of you being, of you getting that space, getting that time? You're sacrificing satisfaction, your own satisfaction in life for busyness and stuff, right? What is that stuff? Is it work? Is it other things? Is it the minutia of life?
It's, work. I have a set amount of time in the office every day. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's busy. Sometimes it's not so busy, and I could do some of my other stuff, probably. But I have this. I guess I can't change gears. So even if I had 30 minutes at my office, a lot of times it's hard for me to make the mindset to be like, oh, I'm going to, do this thing that I want to do. And that may, I don't think my office would be upset, with me if I was, I came in and I was reading a book or, but I can't go out, and just like, hey, I'm going to go do my own thing for a half an hour, hope nothing comes up, or an hour or whatever. And then, like I'd mentioned, the end of the day, I go home and I have time with my wife and stuff, and I commute. I've tried to build in some time with I ride a bike to and from work, or sometimes I run home, which is nice. It's gotten me some feeling of distance from the office to my personal life, which I think has been made home life better. But it's still, you're commuting in New York City, and so you're paying attention to cars and people zipping by you and dodging things.
So this lack of having this time and space in your life to do the things that you most want to do, that really bring you the most satisfaction, what is that costing you? Like at the end of the day, or even if you look at the end of the day, but you fast forward, let's say 5 years or 10 years, right? Let's say nothing changes. Where does that leave you? What does that leave you with? Or what is the cost of that?
Well, it leaves me right where I am now with, as I said earlier, like nothing bad, like a pretty good life.
Yeah.
But you know, I have some goals, like athletically, and I have a range of things I'd like to do, and if I don't carve out some more time for myself, I'm never going to do that. I'd like to run 100-kilometer race maybe, or maybe another idea I had was I'd like to get back in shape, and when I was in high school and college, I loved running the 100 meters, and I'm like, whoa, what would be really cool, when I turned 50, to see if I could be one of the top 100, 800-meter runners for 50 and older, in the world or something. I definitely, on the path I'm going, I will never do that, because those are real commitments. Or if I, wanted to, write a book or something, I'm not going to do that. They require more time to make concerted effort than I will ever give if things continue like they are. And they're not things that would be the end of the world, but they're things that would make me really satisfied with life, at least trying to do those things, even if, I'm unsuccessful.
Most of the folks I talk to are they're in the same situation. Life is good. It's okay, but they want to go from good to great, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You want to take a good life and make it great. And you have these hopes and dreams and goals and wishes, and they're possible, but you're kind of stuck in this point where, I think Henry David Thoreau says it best, this quote of the masses of men lead lives of quiet desperation, right?
Yeah.
And we know that there's more possible, but we're oftentimes sucked in by the mediocrity that's around us, right? Maybe not in an environment where we're maximizing our own potential. I mean, do you feel that way, or?
I definitely feel the not maximizing my own potential, but personally, I feel like I operate, at least in a work world and stuff, in a space that is about as far from mediocrity as you can get, which, sometimes, might add to some of the frustration, I come to work. My job is to, make sure everybody else's life, personal and work life, go really smoothly. And so I think there's some frustration that I don't get the same results in my own life.
Mm. Yeah. So you feel like there's more possible in your own life. You're seeing it happen in other people's lives, and saying, how do I bring that about?
I'm doing it
for
for other people's lives a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What's possible in your life, Kurt? I mean, if you can really think about an ideal down the road, something maybe you've never shared this with somebody before, or maybe you have, but it's maybe kind of one of those things that's deep down, you're I know this is possible. I know this is what I want, right? And you talked a little bit about it. You talked about the races. You talked about maybe writing a book. I mean, what does that look like? The possibility, and thinking big, what you really deep down know is possible. Maybe it's going to be hard. Maybe you don't know what the path is, to get from here to there. But what does that look like? What do you think is possible? What is that hope, that dream, that wish, that goal down the road? What does that life look like? That other life that you're kind of thinking about right now, that you see is happening for other people. What is your version of that?
Well, that's one of the challenging things I mentioned in the email that I sent to you, that New York is not my ultimate end game, but I have a job that I do like and I appreciate, and it makes good money, set me up for later. But eventually I would like to my wife's Japanese. We would like to figure out how to live part of the year in Japan and part of the year in the United States. My wife owns some farmland and stuff out there. Maybe do something with that, and then do those things that I talked about. Write, plan, vacations around going someplace cool to, do some adventure, whether it's like, running a race or, climbing a mountain, those kind of things. Like that possibility is a kind of flexibility where I'm not afraid of working. I don't want to, retire anytime soon. I don't know if I ever want to retire, but I want to be able to have my work and my, extracurricular stuff have more of a balance, maybe even an integration. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't think I said that very clearly, but when I say it, I get it inside. I get a an emotional feeling like, it's good, but I'm not very good at putting it into words.
Yeah, but you feel it. That's what's most important, whether you can put it into words to me or not. The important part is that through this conversation, you can feel it, right? And And what does it feel like? What does it feel like? You can describe it.
It feels open, and it feels like full of possibility, and it feels like something that I don't really care if it's hard to do or not.
Yeah. That's when you start getting to what's most important to you. You don't care if it's hard to do or not, but you want that. You want that so bad, right?
Yeah.
Do you believe it can happen?
Oh, I definitely can believe it. I definitely believe it can happen. Yes, I do. 100%.
What would have to happen? What has to happen? What has to happen for you to get there? What are sort of some things? They don't have to be, exact concrete steps just yet, but what has to happen? What has to change in your life?
There are two paths. There's the path where nothing has to change right now except suck it up and bite the bullet, for another 10 years and, save up some money and then just defer it and do it, which is definitely not the fun way to go. And then there's the way...
Did you say 10 years? You save money for... Yeah, okay.
Save 10 years.
Sure.
And like you said, I have a job that I like, and we have a mission for some stuff we want to do in our company that I bought into, and I have committed to helping make happen. And I don't feel, unless there's some change along the way, I wouldn't feel comfortable moving on from that in less than 10 years. That's my feeling right now. And so that's one way. Just suck it up, get through it, but deferring the life I want for 10 years doesn't sound that great.
So let's talk about that for a second. So deferring your life for something that you committed to, okay, and holding, fulfilling our commitments is obviously very important. Is this something that could happen if you weren't there? I mean, does it all revolve around you?
It does not. It does not revolve around me completely. I mean, almost everybody's replaceable, but I definitely make things easier. I was asked to do was offered the job for a reason. Because essentially I'm good at it, and people like working with me, and I like working with them. It's 100% my choice. It's a job that I didn't have to take. I didn't quite understand what life in New York was going to be like when I took it. But other than that, it was something that I had checked out. When I accepted this job, I was living in Japan, teaching yoga, and helping my in-laws on their orange farm, in their orchards and stuff. So
is the next 10 years of your life replaceable? You said everybody is replaceable, but what about the next 10 years of your life? Do you get that back? And let me ask, and let me preface that with saying this. In no way am I encouraging you to leave or quit. That's not. My job is to ask you questions and to ask you questions that give you perspective on something that is subconscious in your mind. Maybe it's something you talk about out loud. Maybe it's not. Oftentimes things come up in this conversation, these kind of conversations where, you just don't have people in your life you talk to about this stuff, this in depth. So we take that stuff as maybe subconscious and bring it above the surface and bring it to the conscious level. And then we let ask you questions to encourage you to look at it from different perspectives. So the 10 years of your life that you are willing to commit to this project, what is that? What is the cost of that?
I'm struggling to answer the question just because it doesn't seem that cut and dried to me. Just going back to the idea, or what I said at the beginning, that life's not so bad. But the reason I'm talking to you, and I guess I didn't finish my thought. So I said there's the one way to look at it, which is where I just continue for 10 years and probably have a really good work experience, and maybe I'm operating at 2/3 of what I want to do. If we're saying like my home life is a third, work is a third, and personal is a third, that's just random picking thirds to make it easy. But but then, like I said, then there's the other way where I make some sort of. I really think it's a lot of it's a mindset shift, where I don't have tons of time that I can devote to my life, doing the things I want. Like I'm not going to devote 20 hours a week, but maybe there's 10 hours a week. But like I mentioned at the beginning, I need to. I guess I need to be confident, and I need to be committed to some plan to seize the time that's available and somehow let myself be okay with it and really maximize that time. I think it's one of my, like I mentioned earlier, that sometimes I have time, I can maybe do other things, and I struggle to embrace that. And
tell me more about that. So you have times where you can do things, but you struggle to embrace it. I mean, is it you have the time, but you don't follow through and actually execute and do it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like this is going back to what I said at the beginning, I tend to defer to work or family life.
Yeah.
Instead of just to drawing a line in the sand is definitely not the right thing, because I don't have any people in my life that I feel like I need to draw the line in the sand. But maybe I need to be willing to step over some line that I've drawn in the sand, and I don't know how to do that maybe at this point.
And in the email, you wrote, one of the things you wrote to me was getting the personal time and space that you need without the anxiety of letting other people down. Is that where that comes from, you think?
Yeah, I do think so. I think I've set up, I've done a good job with the things that are important in my life, other than kind of my own time. And I think I've set a baseline that I feel like other people expect. Whether or not that's true or not, I haven't really explored. But like, I feel like I operate at a really high level in those things, and I don't want the feeling of people going, "Oh man, Kurt's kind of slipping. What's up with him? He used to be so good at, being a husband, or used to be, so on top of work."
Right. So if hypothetically, Kurt, if you could go from where you're at to that life 10 years down the road that we talked about earlier, where you're splitting your time between the United States and Japan, you're writing, you're taking vacations, you're climbing mountains, you're doing races, you're living this life of balance and flexibility, and you're integrating work into your life, right?
Uh-huh.
Hypothetically, if you could make your 10-year goal happen in 1 year, what would have to happen? And maybe that means completing your commitment to your work that you talked about now. Or maybe it means breaking that commitment. Maybe it means completing that commitment or fulfilling that commitment in some unique way that you've not even thought about yet. Getting somebody else to help you with it, or whatever the case might be. Hypothetically, if you could make your 10-year goals happen in 12 months, what would have to happen?
I don't think it would be able to happen with me doing the job that I'm doing now.
So you'd have to leave your job.
Everything. Yep. I'd have to get rid of that, which is something that I'm not at all interested in doing for multiple reasons.
Okay.
The other parts could all happen in a year, but that's one component that won't. And I mean, that's already that's built into my mindset. That's like, I've got that 10-year date out there, and I picked an actual date, so that 10 doesn't become 11, doesn't become 15, doesn't.
Smart. You're pretty clear on what are the things that are important to you, and we all have desire to live that fully satisfied life sometime off in the future, right? I had a client I was talking to this morning who said he's waiting for like a snowstorm to shut everything down so that he can, just like get holed up in his office at home for a few days and just get caught up on stuff, right? And he's like, I know that'll never happen. He goes, even if it does happen, I still won't get caught up, right? But like we all sort of envision that down the road. The good life, the life that we want, doesn't have to be deferred, right? Mm-hmm. When you know what's important to you and you know what you value in your life, you can set goals around those things and have that life now, right? I'm not saying you can split your time between here and Japan, but and we can't cover all this in a 30 or 40 minute phone call, of course, but this is the kind of work that I do with people is you figure out what is it about that is important to me. What would be enjoyable? What would be satisfying about that? What would be satisfying about the races? What would be satisfying about, doing these things that help me become, like you initially said, better person, or maybe a more full version, the fullest version of you. How do you make that happen now, right? And again, I'm not talking about quitting your job. I'm not talking about splitting your time between here and Japan. I'm talking about other things that we don't even know yet, right? So, and that all comes from the process. It's a 4-step process of, number one, you start out with getting clear on what you value most, right? What's important to you. You know some of those things. We all know some of those things, right? At some level, we know what we value, right? And then the second one is creating goals that align with those. Now, were you a college athlete?
Yeah, I ran my last 2 years of college. I ran. Okay,
so you've run at a high level, right? So
yes,
whenever you're competing, like whenever you're an athlete at that level, you create clear goals, and there's a deadline, and there's people in your life that help you achieve that goal, and those goals are based off of some value, right? There's some reason, some deep-seated value that aligned with in your life, right? And so you had that value, you set that goal, you had an environment around you, you had the people around you, you had self-talk going through your mind, and then you had follow-through. You executed. You knew it was important to you. You set a goal around it. You had an environment around you that helped you succeed, and then you followed through. And what was at stake then was, success, right? Winning the race or whatever, goals you had there. But like, what's at stake now? What's at stake now is so much bigger than that. What's at stake now is these dreams, these hopes, these wishes, this deferred life that you're looking for down the road, which is going to come. It's like, how do we get pieces of that into your life now? And that's the process. That's the process you have to go through in order to make that happen. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense.
Identifying your values, identifying what's most important to you, creating goals in the 4 areas where we've talked about setting goals. And you may have heard me talk about this on the podcast. I'm not sure how many episodes you've listened to, but relationships, self, health, and wealth. So relationships is self-explanatory. Self is around I say GIF, growth, impact, or fun. Growth, like personal growth. Impact, like impact on the world, or fun, just things that are fun, that are enjoyable. Maybe that's climbing a mountain, maybe it's writing a book, etc. Maybe that's on the growth side, writing a book, right? Yeah, be a big challenge. And then health and fitness, health and well-being is self-explanatory. And then wealth, money, financial goals, career goals, professional goals. Yeah. So those are the 4 steps. I mean, if you can, and that's what I from I talk about these on the podcast, but that's the process. That's what I go. That's what I do with my clients, and that's what Reveal Your Path is all about. But I hope that gives you some sense of taking these challenges that are in your life that are your life is good and you want it to be even better. And so how do you do it? Well, this is the process you go through, and hopefully this helps you take some of that was subconscious, that was below the surface, and bring it above the surface and sort of evaluate it. There's obviously a lot more work to be done here, but this is the starting point. Does that make sense?
It does, and you pushing me on some of those things is, it's really useful. Like already it jogs my mind about, maybe I could, approach this situation this way, or I think I knew what I wanted, and even probably most of what you said, like you said, we all know this, but when you're forced to say it out loud, and somebody who works with a lot of people and knows what they're talking about and knows how to coach, says the same thing that you said to yourself last week and then didn't pay attention to, kind of makes you stand up and notice.
There's
definitely
that level of accountability of having that conversation. Again, like most of us we don't have people in our lives that we have this kind of conversation with. That's why I think it's so important to have a mastermind group. Having those kind of people that you can talk with. Travis, who you and I talked about, and mutual friend. Like, he's somebody that I stay connected with regularly. He's obviously an elite performer, and we hold each other accountable. And it's important to have those people in your life.
Yeah, like one thing that talking to you really has made me think about, like when you talked about the relationships and yourself and health and wealth and all of that, and it made, like, being coached by you made me think, what? Maybe instead of just being stuck where I am, I need to subtly be kind of coaching the people in my life to help me with my life.
Yeah.
There's a possibility too. Like you said, think of things totally differently, and that might be one way that I could think a little bit differently.
So, Kurt, if you were to have an action item or a couple of action items out of this call, what would they be?
I think the first thing I want to do is I actually want to talk to my wife about, the things I want to do. She knows kind of the big things we talked about, and she knows that I'd like to run more and stuff, but I think I'm gonna talk to her and just say, I really want to do this stuff. What ideas do you have that can, help me get this stuff in my life? And let her be part of the process.
When can you have that conversation?
Oh, when I get home. That can happen today.
Today? Awesome.
Yeah, that can happen today. No need to put that off.
All right. I'm writing that one down for you.
All right. I wrote it down for myself too, so
Good.
I'll set on that. Another one I think that I could probably do is I think I should take the next week or so and inventory my time a little better. Like, I think I have a handle on what I really do, but I think I really should know for sure, like, how much time I have and how much free time is out there. Just be able to look at it all and see if I can block some of it together into longer stretches that I could have for myself.
Yeah. Okay. So what would be the process for inventorying your time? I actually had a client that I just worked through with this recently, so we kind of worked through a little bit of this. But and I can give you some feedback on that in a second, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
I think I'd probably set my phone somehow to like beep every hour, and just try to maybe for every hour 15-minute blocks, and just kind of guesstimate about, in the last hour I spent 15 minutes on this, 30 minutes on this. Not getting too specific, but I think that would be good enough.
I think it'd be good. Yeah, you don't let perfect get in the way of good enough. There's an app. There's a Google Chrome extension. If you use Google Chrome, that is an extension that will, I don't even remember the name of it, but if you Google, you'll find there's more than one, I'm sure, that will track your time spent on different types of websites, like social media or online shopping or business related or whatever the case. You can there's these different categories that'll put it. So anyway, you can use that to track your time spent on the internet, like at least in the time you're sitting in front of your computer. An attorney friend of mine says that what he will do is they'll sometimes go back through their emails and look at their outbox, because we're sending so many emails these days. But that's just another way to kind of look at, okay, how am I spending my time, or how did I spend the last hour? I don't even remember what I did. We'll go and look in your outbox. And you're like, I sent that email. I spent 20 minutes writing that email because I had to go look up something else first and talk to somebody else before I did that. And anyway, that's another way to do that as well. And then the third one I'll give you is just using your phone, the voice memo app. Just use that voice memo app, and you can just hit record. Say, okay, for the last hour I did this, that, and the other thing, and then you can just sort of at some point go back and hit play on those.
That's right.
Document out.
That's a good idea too. Yeah. Cool.
Good. So you can have a conversation with your wife, and you're going to inventory your time. And is there a third thing?
I think the third thing that I would want to do, and I think it's actually going to be part of the time inventory. Like, I want to see how much time I'm actually getting for myself. I think this time inventory has the potential to be a big thing for me, just to see if my feeling and my reality of what I'm doing and what time I have available. See if what I think is really what's happening.
I think so.
I'd love. It's always nice to work in threes. Do you have something that you think I should add to that?
I think I'm a big proponent of journaling, and you don't have to do it every day, but I think whenever there's doubt or lack of clarity around a topic, I have two versions of journals. So I have a written journal that I use. I write down my goals several times a week. I also have the 5-minute journal, which is handwritten. But when it comes time
I love that one. That one's good.
Yeah, it's a great tool. But when it comes time for just sort of getting my thoughts out of my head and in front of me, I use a Word doc, and I just type, because I can type faster than I write. And it's also searchable. I can go back through my old journal posts. And so anyway, I would recommend doing that and asking yourself just, the simple questions of what's holding me back? That's a great question. I talk about the productive pause. And again, I don't know how many episodes you've listened to. If you've heard me talk about the productive pause, but it's
I have,
that short period. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, it's a short period of focused reflection around specific questions that leads to clarity of action and peace of mind. So what's holding you back is a great one. What am I not doing that if I were would help me move towards my goals? What would so-and-so do? Another good one. Somebody who's already done or doing what you're trying to achieve, whether it's at work or at home or in your fitness and races, whatever the case might be. So I would recommend journaling based on our conversation, based on what we talked about today. I would recommend in the next 24 hours, journaling on it. Just stream of consciousness. Let it flow. Dump it out.
Great. I'm on those 3 things.
All right. Awesome, Kurt. Well, I hope that was helpful. Yeah,
it was very clarifying, which was one of the things I think I said right at the beginning that I wanted. Yeah, I'm feeling excited about working on this. So thank you very much. It was a really, really good talk, and thank you for pushing me to keep answering things, because a lot of times I wasn't quite sure where the answers were going to go.
There it is. So Kurt just shared quite a bit with us. He shared these things for the first time out loud, and he left the call with a lot more clarity than he had going in. And I don't know if you noticed there at the end, he said, it feels like a world of possibility. Imagine yourself saying that. It feels like a world of possibility. And did you also notice that he said he doesn't really care if it's hard or not? How about that clarity? How about that focus? How about that drive? How about that inspiration? How about dusting off what you know is possible in your life and actually having a conversation with somebody so you can untangle those thoughts that are swirling around in your head, so you can tap into your untapped potential, so you can stop underperforming, so you can get to the next level, so you can break through the mediocrity that surrounds you, so you can get consistent, so you can get focused. If you're looking for that level of clarity, let's set up a call. Go to jimharshawjr.com/apply. That's jimharshawjr.com/apply. And if you know somebody else who needs this, please share the episode. Thanks for listening. And until next time, take the time to get clear on your goals and embrace failure as a stepping stone on your path to success.